Cheating Death Podcast is a comedy podcast providing objective information about anything and everything under the sun. We are not religious nor political. We are merely litigious and analytical. Viewer discretion is advised. On today's episode of the Cheating Death Podcast, we get into global calamity and how it combines with Occam's razor. How, more often than not, the simplest explanation is more than likely the factual one. We provide you with an all-new mailbag and all-new Annihilation Announcement, joke of the episode, our top 5 favorite spring salty snacks, and more. So you know what to do, dear listener. Grab your coffee, put up your feet, grab your blanket, and let us tell you how you can cheat death. This is your news anchor, the Cleric of Chaos, and this is your Annihilation Announcement. We look at the world as a population of approximately 8+ billion people. We do not understand when we speak about that number that there are 8 billion different realities that dwell inside of this planet at any given point in time. There are around 108 billion people in whom have crossed and past these thresholds before ourselves, and there will be a litany of those after we depart. What is imperative that a lot of people in the regular mainstream element of government work seem to forget is that life is not easy. It is not identifiably indicatable to proceed at a natural rate for everyone. Some people are going to face struggles. Some people are going to face the strife that no one could ever hope to cross without much pain. But what we must do, dear listeners, is we must find our own way. The idea of the 9 to 5 and the idea of the 8-hour workday and the 40-hour work week is pretty much gone. We have to figure it out ourselves before the walls close in. Thank you for tuning in today, and remember, this is your news anchor, the Cleric of Chaos, and this is your Annihilation Announcement. Willkommen, meine Freunde. Guten Morgen, guten Tag und eine gute Nacht. Ist deine Ausfresser, deine Ausländer und deine Reisende, deine Cleric of Chaos. We look at our world in such a beautifully twisted perspective in most cases. Today we are going to touch on global catastrophe and how it ties in with Occam's razor. Now, Occam's razor, to put it succinctly, is merely that when something transpires, the simplest possible explanation is the most rational and the most true. When we partner this with global catastrophe, and when we look at the specifics as to exactly what is taking place over the course of time, since the early 2010s, there has been a global shift of attitude. There has been a global shift of dedication and of effort and of concern. We, as part of the proverbial 99%, our brackets of tax and of class are always subject to change. Like a professional boxing card or a UFC card, the card is always subject to change. And when you take that into consideration as to how it implements various policies and how it works within the very structures and threads of life itself, you begin to understand that a lot of the answers that we try to spend eternities explaining, because the simplest explanation is the most evil one, we could be saving ourselves a lot more time. For example, let us take into consideration what is happening between the United States and Iran, and the United States and several other countries right now, for lack of a better term. One of the reasons why this is taking place is because the Republican Party, more specifically Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and the administration specifically within the cabinet, are individuals in whom are trying to take America back all the way to 1945. People who are trying both ideologically, governmentally, rudimentarily, and socially take America back to the days of the fucking early 1900s. And when you take into account all of the anti-American propaganda that has been put out by this same government, you would not be surprised to understand that it is obvious that the left hand does not know what the right hand is doing at all. And when you combine that reality with exactly everything that has been going on, both state to state and on a federal basis in America, more and more average Americans becoming angry, more and more facing civil unrest, more and more facing poverty, more and more facing higher gas prices, the situation is not lost on a lot of people. However, in order to save face and in order to save emotion, Occam's razor is avoided. Instead of looking directly at the problem, identifying it, and labeling it, there is a bunch of whataboutism that takes place in defense of this administration. There is a lot of blaming and a lot of misdirection and a lot of segues that take place in order to deviate from the true global catastrophe that this administration has brought upon a large part of the world. People below the Bible Belt are suffering. And they have been for well over 20 years at this point. Donald Trump succeeded in acquiring their vote by promising them a significant level of promise, of prosperity, of positivity. And yeah, look, his first term, nothing happened. This term, nothing's happening. The only thing that's happening is more people are losing their jobs, and life is becoming a little bit more arduous for everyone around. Now, don't get it twisted. This episode and this program, we're not political. We'll call out people for doing stupid things. And Donald Trump and his administration have done a lot of stupid things. Mark Carney, the current Prime Minister of Canada, and his administration have been and are doing a lot of stupid things. The premiers of BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, Quebec, Newfoundland and Labrador, New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, and Nova Scotia are all doing very lame things. All politicians everywhere understand that the goal is to seed as much hope and inspiration as possible without ever actually following through on the promises that were made in totality. We take into consideration the global stress, the global economic crunch that is happening right now, the fact that dollars, cents mean now more than they have in a very long time. And we very well may be heading for some type of global disaster on an unthinkable scale. But dear listener, our lives will be easier if we start to understand that the simplest explanation is more than likely the obvious, unless there is a glaring omission to where there may be information that is secondarily provided. more often than not, the simplest answer is the most likely and most factual, true one. As far as global conquest goes, we got a long way to go before this calamity is over. All we can do is take it one day at a time. Thank you for tuning in today. If you have any questions or feedback, you may do so at thecheatingdeathpodcast@gmail.com, and please remember to like, share, and subscribe our YouTube channel at youtube.com/@clericchaos and youtube.com/weallcheatdeath. We begin today's mailbag with an email that comes directly to us from Baltimore, Maryland, from our friend Craig. Craig asks, "Hey, Cheating Death Podcast, I noticed that you have quite a strong affinity for America. What is your favorite state and why?" Whew, well, goodness gracious there, Craig. You're starting off the mailbag with quite the loaded revolver of a question. Now, I don't necessarily mean to be all obtuse and go Dutch Vanderland on you, or provide you with a runaround answer, but I do not have a favorite state. It is almost impossible to identify specifically what would categorize my favorite experience or my favorite idea of what my favorite state is. However, you asked me a question, and the whole idea of this podcast is to ensure that we are providing our listeners with the most transparent and objective information possible. So, if I had to pick a state, it would be New York. And there are 4 reasons to this. Number 1, upstate New York is one of the most beautiful and tranquil areas of any state I have ever seen. The people in some of those areas, specifically like Rochester and Syracuse and Albany, are some of the absolute coolest people. Western New York even has a lot of really awesome people. You would assume they're Canadian because they're so respectful. Tonawanda County, Buffalo, like just past Niagara Falls, Ontario, and just past Fort Erie, into that part of Buffalo is probably some of the greatest times I've ever had in my entire teenage life. Buffalo treated me well as a teenager when I would sneak over there and try to get access to the radio station to get backstage passes for things. But hey, New York is one of those anomalous states where you can go from all the way from Western New York and go all the way to New York City and have a completely different world of experiences. There's so much to find, there's so much to explore, and if you just look at New York City alone and say, oh, well, New York City is this, New York City is that. 1, shut up. You haven't lived in New York City, and it is a beautiful, beautiful place. You just have to find exactly what it is that you're looking for. If you're looking for negativity, if you're looking for garbage, then that's what you're going to find. But I digress. Craig, New York is my answer, and I do want to thank you very much so for this absolutely tremendous question. Our next question hails to us from Portland, Oregon, and comes to us from a lady by the name of Sarah. Sarah from Portland asks us, "Hello, Cheating Death Podcast. We noticed that you have mentioned that you like metal music a lot. What is your top 3 favorite metal bands, and do you have any preference of instrument that you play?" Well, Sarah, that's a great question. Thank you so very much for taking the time to send us that. First and foremost, there's no way I could pick a top 3, but if I had to, it is probably, in no particular order, Hypocrisy, Lindemann, and Rammstein, or Pain. You might have to throw Static X in there too, but those would be the top 3. And as far as performing and instruments go, guitar and singing, specifically performing rhythm guitar and singing, are probably my favorite things to do when it comes to stage performance, especially metal. I enjoy drums, but I enjoy guitar just a tiny bit more. Thank you so very much for your question. And it looks like our last question for today's program. We still got a lot to go, but hey, this mailbag is quite fun. So let us take our time with this and enjoy the beautiful and whimsical information that we are consuming here. Our final question comes to us from Barry, and he hails from New Orleans, Louisiana. Hi there, Cheating Death Podcast. Long-time listener, first-time emailer. Just want to let you know that this is a fun show to listen to when I'm working, and I really hope that you have an amazing time recording it. I do have a small question, though. What is your favorite kind of barbecue food? Ooh, that is absolutely a loaded question. Oh my goodness. Thank you so very much for that question. That is tremendous. If the podcast was to pick favorite barbecue food, okay, probably looking at either a blue rare or a rare New York strip loin steak with spices, garlic, butter, salt, and pepper. Pulled pork, thick beef burgers, or giant steak burritos, probably. Yeah, those would probably be the top ones. And I'd like to thank you so very much for your question, my friend. And that will do it for this week's episode of the Mailbag. And if you have any questions, you can email us at thecheatingdeathpodcast@gmail.com. On today's episode of the Cheating Death Podcast, we provide you with an updated list of our top 5 favorite salty snacks. It's been a while since we've talked about yummy treats, so without further ado, let's dive right in. Coming in at number 5, we have popcorn. Coming in at number 4, we have Slim Jim pepperoni sticks. Coming in at number 3, we of course have the spicy pepperettes at any local grocery store. Coming in at number 2, we have the ever so beautiful salted potato chip. And coming in at number 1, we of course have the soft pretzel. What is your top 5? Email us at thecheatingdeathpodcast@gmail.com. Today's joke has been brought to you by the Cleric of Chaos. It is said that emails can be utilized as weapons. Well, if that's the case, then the send button is the trigger. One of the elements that we take for granted on such a significant number of momentous occasions is the sheer energy that is distributed throughout the moment. When we look back at our memories over the course of years, and sometimes decades gone by, it is lost upon us how and why we could have possibly lost that feeling of happiness, of capitulation, and of complete jubilation. But, dear listener, life is never going to be one of those things where a scientist is going to identify and write a book as to exactly how it works. That is part of the beauty of existence, is we're all kind of sort of just blindly stumbling through this together. And all we need to do is be a little bit kinder. Thank you for tuning in today. Take care of yourselves and each other. The Cheating Death Podcast is brought to you by Nachdem Lieben CRDVC, Cleric of Chaos, and where you can find all major podcasts on all platforms. We'd like to thank Hunter Collins and Ransom for their recent support for the Injury Support and Buy Me a Coffee Fund, and Carol to her recent support to the Injury Support and First and Last Fund. If you would like to support the program, we are still looking for formal assistance. You may do so by acquiring a Cameo, purchasing merch, setting up a meeting for your business plan, setting up a Buy Me a Coffee, or much more. The links are in the episodes and in the podcast description. If you'd like to follow us, you may do so at the links in the episode's description: youtube.com/@clericofchaos and youtube.com/@weallgdeath, twitter.com/clericofchaos, and twitter.com/weallgdeath. Please follow all of our friends in the pinned profile post and in the links in the episode's description. If you or anyone you know is experiencing psychiatric duress, emotional disturbances, domestic violence, or are having a mental health crisis, please call any one of the toll-free numbers listed in the episodes and in the podcast's description. Dear listeners, if you are looking at adopting a playful puppy or a cute kitten, please visit your local animal adoption rescue center. And remember, no matter how far upon this journey you come with us, we understand and we will remind you that your life is not easy. No matter which road you come from, you will always have to find a way to figure it out. Remember, we're pulling for you. We're all in this together.